wherever you're tuning in the world, be it Bali, Australia, from the comfort of your bed, because I know it's cold in Brisbane at the moment and you're snuggled up in a doona, then that's totally cool. Appreciate you for jumping on. Tonight, we're going to be busting some myths around this seemingly dirty word called network marketing or multi-level marketing. There's a lot of misconceptions around this, and often it's a result of either hearing stories or reading about something on the internet, hearing about something from friends, for example, but not really understanding what it actually is, really. So I have a couple of really special guests tonight on the call as well, who are going to be speaking from their own experience as well. So I'd like to introduce you to Brendan and Domi first, to their story and their involvement, and then we're going to introduce Ben as well. So again, really special guest, Ben Kelly, who was actually dialing in from Bali as well. So I'm so appreciative of his time. So Brendan, mate, over to yourself.
Cool. Thanks, Ryan. Awesome, mate. So Ryan and I have been friends now for a couple of months. Like, we met in March down in Brisbane and just hit it off, as well as Domi. Like, the three of us, along with Laura, just happened to randomly bump into each other. It was the best catch up, and we just knew, regardless of what we're doing with Isogenics, that we were going to be mates. Like, we just knew that. So it's just it's so awesome now to be able to be working on some passion projects together, doing the things that we love, and like this sort of stuff, growing into the best version of ourselves that we can. So, guys, I guess what we'll do is we'll just really briefly share our story, just to give you a little background for tonight, but then it's all about you guys, like what's going on, what you want to hear, how we can just provide information to help answer any questions regardless of outcomes, so that you guys can leave the call hopefully feeling a little bit clearer about what we do, what Ryan and Sammy are up to, and a few of us other guys as well. And so I'll start with my story. I started in a banking career 10 years ago. I was 5.5 years at uni studying a business management and finance degree, majoring in commerce, and Isogenics came into my life at a time when I needed it. I was 24 and a half. I had a debt raging for me. I had a new mortgage. I was really struggling to pay my bills. And as a result of that, like, I started to sort of get a little bit frustrated at life. I just felt like I was spinning my wheels a little bit. And I wasn't really, in hindsight now, lit up in the financial world. So Isogenics initially came into my life to improve my overall health. What happened in the first couple of weeks on Isogenics was like a light switch switched on inside of me, and I started sleeping better. The mental fog lifted for me. I was just feeling a lot better within myself. My body composition changed a lot and improved, and I was already very healthy when I started the program. So yeah, I had incredible results. I knew pretty early on that it was something that I was going to implement into my lifestyle, particularly when I did the research to find the quality of what I was actually putting in my body and how it comes from a holistic approach and an Eastern-based sort of medicine approach. So I knew that it was good stuff. I knew that I felt better, connected those dots, but unfortunately, my financial situation wasn't where I wanted to be. That's how my sharing journey began. I literally shared almost out of desperation to get my products paid for, and continued on. And so really, to cut a long story short, I became very passionate about what I was delivering to people, because I saw them lit up the same way I was. And I really got to work to understand what this can be and what the possibilities are for me, because not being 100% lit up in my role, having skepticism about lots of things and not having my questions necessarily answered at that point, I went to an event. Once I got the full information and understood that it was really, really a legitimate business model for me to invest my time and energy into, got to work. Within 2.5 years, resigned from my 10-year career in finance, and I've now been doing Isogenics for nearly 5 years. I resigned from my role about 2.5 years ago now, and moved from Tasmania up to sunny Cairns, and this is where we do the Start Your Life movement, which is 18 to 35-year-olds that are looking and very passionate about, contribution, creativity, community, that sort of thing. So yeah, we're really digging in and having a really, really great time. And essentially, I think that's how come we've, attracted people like Laura and Ryan and Sammy into working together with the Start Your Life movement, because those guys are similar-minded with that contribution space. So yeah, it's awesome to be on. And Dommy, do you want to share your brief story?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Welcome. I can't see everyone who's on the call, but I've chatted to a few people in three-way chats now, and it's so lovely to be able to be on this call with you guys. And we also have Isabella, who's jumped on from Sweden. So hello, love. I'm so glad that you made it on the call. So guys, for me, before Isogenics, I was working 3 jobs and looking after my mum. I had just started off as a personal trainer, and whilst I absolutely loved what I was doing, I was just struggling to keep my energy levels up. I came into Isogenics 4.5 years ago, and I wasn't expecting the shift that happened. So for me, I had energy that just went through the roof within 2 weeks of being on the program. My mental clarity, I was operating from a different space. I was waking up excited about my day, and I was someone back then who was working 7 days a week, like 16-hour days, and I was excited. So that spoke volumes for me. And within 30 days of being on my first program, I noticed a massive physical shift as well. So I was able to shift that last little bit of tummy fat that I had been trying to work on for 2 years prior, doing the traditional means of clean eating and training a lot. So I knew that there was something really special with these products. But for me, the main thing was my headspace. I was just so happy. And naturally, I just started sharing with everybody. Like, I was telling everyone, oh my gosh, I've got this thing, gonna get you shredded in 30 days. It's amazing. They're like, what is it? I'm like, it's Isogenics. They're like, what's that? I'm like, it's a health program. You order it, rocks up to your door, you follow it, you get results. If you don't get results, you get your money back. It's amazing. And just through my excitement, people were jumping on board. And without even knowing what I was doing, I was starting to build an Isogenics business. And it was within a short amount of time, about 6 weeks in. I'll never forget, because Isogenics paid me more money in 1 week than my other 3 jobs combined. And that's when I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? See, I didn't know it was run through the vehicle of network marketing. I just knew that if I helped people get started like I got started, I got a referral for that. So I reached out to a friend who was doing the Isogenics business, and I said to her, hey babe, I'm getting this money from Isogenics, and I'd really love to know how I'm actually generating it. And she sent me through a podcast of a chick named Peter Kelly, who happens to be Ben's sister. And I listened to that podcast, and I was so moved, because in this 20-minute podcast, Peter shared how Isogenics was so much more than a product. It was essentially a vehicle that could get a person to where they wanted to be in their life. And for me, I was someone who was super passionate about the planet and wildlife, and had tried every means under the sun to get paid work in those avenues, and kept getting knocked back. So I saw this as a way that if I actually ran with this, then maybe down the track, I would be able to generate enough money from Isogenics that I could go off and do the things that I was passionate about. Being in nature, being and working with wildlife. And so I got myself to my first event, and that's when I learned the tools to build an Isogenics business, and I just ran with it. And like Brendan shared, here we are 4.5 years later, we get to do Isogenics full time. We get to choose our days. We get to work with beautiful people like yourself. And we are just so passionate about sharing what this truly is and what this can do for people, because I know for us, it's absolutely changed our lives. So that's a little bit about our story and why we love Isogenics so much.
That's great. We could go on all night, couldn't we?
We totally could, but we
totally
want
to keep it so short as we can, so that we can help, answer any questions that may be there, because that's the purpose of the call tonight. So, yeah. Thanks, Ryan.
Wonderful. And I guess I have the honor as well to hand it over to Ben Kelly as well, who is a top Isogenics earner, but also he's got an incredible story as to how he first got involved, purely from firstly being a skeptic. And I've read Ben's story on Facebook the other week, actually, and he was skeptical for 6 months, watching his sister take these products. And Ben, obviously, you can go into your story a little bit more, and I'll hand it over to yourself in a second. But I guess I'm really curious as well to see how you came around and what sort of changes you noticed as well, because obviously you had that initial skepticism, and how did you go about getting your questions answered around not only the products but about the business model as well?
Hey everybody, thanks for that intro there, Ryan. I appreciate it. There's so many interesting ways of how people have come into Isogenics and why they've started. And, mine's in a lot of ways, very similar to a lot of people in the fact that we had a lot of questions that needed to be answered, and I was no different. But for me personally, getting started, it was obviously my sister who was mentioned before, who introduced me. I was a bricklayer. I had a lot of debt, had very little freedom, I had very low self-esteem, and the way that I was kind of gaining that was through exercise and feeling like, hello. So they're upstairs. So I came into it because I had low self-esteem, and I was in the gym working hard and trying to do something about that stuff. And the only thing I felt like I was in control of was my body. So I was working hard in the gym to try and get results, and I felt like I knew a lot, because that was a massive want for me. A massive want for me was to change my body. It was a big priority. That's where I was getting all my self-esteem from. And I was rigorous in my research. I was rigorous in my desire to understand my body, the way that exercise works. And I was nitpicking off a lot of people that were experts on what they were doing. And I felt like I had a pretty good idea. But my sister kind of stumbled upon the company because she went away to Asia. She's raw organic vegan. She was still having inflammation and was having a bit of trouble with bloating. So her friend had recommended it to her, and she was exercise and health science major. So she had a friend who was not in exercise or health science recommending this. So for her, she had to kind of get off a high horse and have a look. And as a scientist, you're basically there to go and work out what's right, what's not so right, what's most probable, go and test your own theories. So for her, it was about going and actually just putting it to the test and seeing if it actually worked, more out of a science, curiosity sort of type mind. She tested it on her clients. She worked with a lot of health professionals, athletes, everyday gym people with their metabolism, diet and exercise from a science standpoint. And so she started to test the systems on her clients, and they were getting fantastic results. I could see that, but even me seeing that with her clients meant very little to someone like me. I was only interested in how I was going to be able to specifically work for myself. And eventually, after 6 months of her sort of coercing me to have a look, just to have a look. Not even to get started, just to have a look. I didn't even let it give me. I didn't even have a look. So eventually she spoke my language. She sat me down and was heavy, rational with me, was black and white on how it was going to be working, and factored into some things that I wasn't taking into account that I didn't even fathom. The opportunity. She didn't know she was getting paid to recommend. She had actually spent a lot of time actually recommending these systems without knowing that she was getting paid for it. Purely from a health professional standpoint, she felt like this was what was best for her brand and what her name was concerned as far as getting results. Then until someone actually told her that she was getting paid, and then she was like, "Well, that's interesting. Well, awesome. They should be doing it anyway." And then slowly but surely, I kind of gathered some knowledge around it. For a long time, didn't think I was capable of doing it. I thought it was more for a white collar type, pencil pusher type. I mean, I had this sort of thing in my head, being a bricklayer, that we were our identity was just to be the ones that did the heavy lifting and weren't meant to do anything that was required any creativity or sort of people related stuff. I mean, being a bricklayer, don't really have to have too much to do. You don't need to get along with people well. You just need to be able to put the bricks in. So I went into something that was heavily people related, and that was tough for me for a while. But then I started to get the gist of what this was about. Obviously, loved the products. I used it for 14 months without sharing it with anyone because I just didn't grasp the opportunity. And then I grasped the opportunity. I saw pretty, everyday people doing quite well with it, and figured, well, actually, maybe I can do something with this. And then as time went on, I started to tick goals off. My self-esteem started to rise because I said I was going to do this and I'd hit it. And I said I was going to do this and I hit it. And then from that, I started to build my self-esteem up until the point where I kind of realized that I could do big things like leave my job, to retire my mum, to travel the world. And then that became my reality. That became my norm. That became the norm of the people that I was surrounded by. And it's been about 6 years now that I've been using the products, about 5 years that I've been building a team. I haven't been in a job for 5 years now, around about 4.5 years now. Traveled the world, retired mum two years ago. Now live in Bali just because people ask why. It's like, because I feel like it. It's like not much sinking into it. So I just want to. So, and I've been able to find something that's been pretty purposeful to me and in my life, which has been the biggest change. And it's been a massive, as far as a personal growth, support base for me to be able to make changes on myself, be a little bit less judgmental about where I was at, and have the space to be able to do that. And yeah, so it's really accelerated a lot of different areas of my life, and it's been of huge value to a lot of people around me. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Ben. I guess, as Brendan was saying as well, the purpose of this call, obviously, guys, is to get your questions answered. And this is a no bullshit, like very transparent conversation we can all have, because you guys will have questions, which is totally cool. And I had questions as well when I started. But I guess I'll throw one out there just to get the ball rolling as well, Ben. No doubt, when you start going down this path, or when you start sharing the isogenics or the products with your friends, family, first objection is it one of those pyramid schemes? Where the guy at the top gets paid the most, and then, you never have any potential to really climb beyond that. And how do you answer that?
There's many ways, but, and you really have to, it's one of those things where it's been hearsay. I understand why people, so I look to kind of understand why they feel like that's the case. Obviously, first, I don't want to get anyone's sort of ego or think that their questions or their concerns are ridiculous. But I asked them, do you think that that's something that I would get involved in? Do you take me for the type of person to get scammed? And typically these days, a lot of people don't feel like that's the case. I think they kind of get it just for me to understand that I'm not that susceptible to to not doing my own research. To be fair, people just really just don't know. They really just don't know. There's a lot of things I don't know in the world, and one thing that I do know is that this is not that. First off, pyramid schemes, that they have no product, they have no service. It's basically the right to sell the right to sell the right to sell the right. We have a product, we have a tangible, we have a product that's visual, emotional. It provides solutions. That knocks that on the head. Basically, you cannot out-earn anyone in a pyramid scheme. I've been in the company for 6 years now. I'm close to the top 100. I think I'm close to the top 100 in a company that's been around for 16 years now, and I've been in it for 6. So there's obviously hundreds of thousands of people that have come before me for me to be out earning them. Now, I wouldn't go into anything that my reward wasn't going to be, my effort wasn't going to be rewarded. When I was bricklaying, a lot of the time would be on the same wall as someone else, putting in more bricks and better quality work, getting paid the same. Why would I go into something that treated me the same? I just would not. And I like the fact that if I worked harder than other people, I was going to get paid my reward. I saw it as the most fairest sort of system that I'd come across to reward people for effort. And that's not something that's going to be typical in a lot of industries. And we've seen that, right? So with the whole pyramid scheme, it's very, very simple. They're illegal. They get shut down very quickly. And we've been around for 16 years. So rationale typically should win out. Some people just really want to be right. And sometimes rationale just ain't enough. So.
Awesome. Thank you for answering that. And anybody else who'd like to jump in, feel free to unmute your microphone. Ben is all in.
No one gets any concerns? No one has anything that's going to come up?
I have another one for you, Ben.
So hold on. So everyone has people just coming to you saying, I'm ready to go. That would be amazing if that was the case. You guys have got to remember 99% of us, the company is built up of skeptics. Your team will be built up of skeptics. Your team will be built up of people that have concerns. Your team will not be built from people that don't have concerns. That's just not how it works, right? Now, I love it. I don't feel like there's a single thing I can't answer. But the only reason that I've gotten to that point is because I've had people throw concerns at me. Does that make sense? So I've been able to hear it all. I've been able to not answer them. I've been able to call upon someone to be able to answer them for me. And the more I've done that, the more I've learned, the more I've been able to learn the terminology, the wording, the tonality, the way of being able to answer people's questions in a manner of which it doesn't threaten their ego, but at the same time allows them to have a greater sense of information, to be able to go and change their thought process to one that's more useful. So I'm more concerned where people don't have questions, they don't have skepticism, they don't have concerns, because I feel like it goes a long way to me allowing to be able to build their belief. Because if I'm able to change their belief on a lot of things, then they're going to be excited by the fact that if they come up against the same thing, they're going to be able to do the same thing. So that's why it's not a fear to have people I get to those things quick. What would be some things that would stop you from getting started today? It's one of my first questions. And people take 2 weeks to get around to this. I'm like, what would stop you? Let's talk about that. And I get through it. Because I get why they have those things. I had those things. I had probably more questions than the majority of people. And I came to the conclusion because I was willing to be able to have people present me more information than I had. And I had a willingness to be wrong. but at the same time, I wasn't, they didn't make me feel silly about it. Okay. And because they had the same questions. Everyone that comes in this has the same questions. It's all completely fine. And again, my team is not built up of people that were easily influenced. Typically, the most influential people are not easily influenced. I feel like I'm influential, but I'm not easily influenced, right? So it's going to take some graft sometimes to be able to help people get over the line. But I enjoy that whole process. I love it, and I'm not fearful of it. But that obviously takes time, and it takes leverage. It takes getting people on a call that are comfortable with that until you've become comfortable yourself, right?
So, hi, I'm Emma, phoning in from Bali as well. So I had someone last week I did a 3-way call with. She and Domi. Originally it was to share the vision, and then it sort of turned into her wanting to be a product user. And later on in a follow-up, she compared it to World Ventures. And so when people compare it to other multi-level marketing companies, what's your response? How do you approach that and give them some sort of sense of comfort around the availability of success?
Yep. I mean, I do, like, around that, I'm like, well, what is it about that you don't like? Right. So I'd ask them, what is it about that you don't, and then typically we can get, and then I can typically go, well, actually, like, I get why you think that, but that's actually not the case here. In our industry, a lot of companies have very different plans as far as their pay is concerned. They have different structures as far as how they get paid. We might be in the same industry, but the way that our company works can be almost polar opposite. Now, in the industry, there's a number of different compensation plans. There's typically a binary, and then there's step breakaways, and then there's a whole influx of a mix of the two. But comp plan to comp plan is normally typically very different, the way that it's structured. But we also have to understand that a lot of times people will make their concern something that's not actually what their concern is. It's just more of an easier one for them to talk about, right? So it's one that they think can put you, like, go back on the back foot and dodge around something that is going to be a threat to sort of themselves or identity, or bring up something for them that they maybe don't want to talk about, or it's a concern about something that is more uncomfortable. So a lot of the time it's we're having to get through a few of them to get to the real reason as to why they don't want to start. And as long as we can make them feel comfortable about them and be able to relate to why they have these concerns, we'll go a long way for them to feel more comfortable, to be able to go, okay, cool. So a lot of time with stuff like that. So what is it about that you don't like that you think is the same here? And if we were different to that, would that be enough for you to be okay? And it's always talking to people going, well, if I can answer this, is that, would you be happy? Right? And if they're not, then I just go again. Okay, so what? Awesome. Like what else would be? And it's just working through that stuff to get to the real core crux, right? So because there's a lot of companies, a lot of different things. Yeah, you're going to get comparisons. Is it like this? Is it like that? You're going to get this. You're going to get that. And to really focus on what we do really well, find out what they don't like about that, and be able to really show them that that's not actually the case, because we're not like anyone else. Our comp plan is not like anyone else's. Our company is not built from the same things. Our company's values are different. Everything's different, but this is the same thing. It's like network marketing is the NBA, and then you've got the Golden State Warriors, and then you've got the Orlando Magic. There are shit teams in the NBA. There are good teams in the NBA, but you don't go and say the NBA shit, do you? Right? It's the same when I was bricklaying. There's good bricklayers, there's bad bricklayers, but you don't say bricklaying in the whole industry shit. It's the same with literally every single industry. but because people are getting thrown opportunities a lot of the time, that topic of conversation gets thrown a light on a fair bit. And then people even within the company have gone question, well, they're probably just saying the same things as what everyone else in other companies is saying. It sounds very similar to what everyone else in other companies is saying. And then you can go, well, they're saying so, right? But there has to be companies that are actually walk the talk and are actually the legit one. And we're one of those ones. And being number one in the country over companies that have been around for 40, 50 years signifies we're doing a better job. Statistically wise, it says so. So my opinion doesn't really matter too much on that, because statistically wise, numbers back up, opinions don't really. So I had experience stuff for themselves to be able to come to that, but hopefully they value people that have been in the industry for a while and can kind of see it. Power of leverage. A lot of people are very scared to leverage people that have been around for a while, like they're being annoying, and it's like that doesn't work in this industry. It's like the whole game is being able to leverage people with the knowledge, and the people with the knowledge are very comfortable in wanting to go and be leveraged. That's how they got there.
I just like to add to that as well, if you like, Em. It's because it's a great question, and Ben just lit up my brain there when you were giving those comparisons, which is really cool, because before I joined network marketing, working at the bank, there's a stigma out there about banks. Everyone hates banks, let's be honest, But what I found is that as a manager at the bank, when someone would come in as a customer, I hate banks, no, I've got this fee, blah, blah, blah. Building a relationship and actually genuinely caring about the person that I had in front of me would then not only change their opinion about the industry of banking, but I'd actually have a really, really strong relationship with that person. So that they would say to me, I've finally found my home. I'm going to come and visit you. Can I see you next time? And I actually did that just the other day. I hate dentists. Can't stand them. I had a injury with football. I had a great experience the other day at a new dentist. And I said to him, can I come and see you next time? Because that was out of like me having a misconception about what dentists actually are and coming from a place of fear with dentists. Hope that coconut's nice, Em. And coming from a place of fear with dentists, to that guy actually helped me to understand that he was there to deliver for me, to take me out of pain, to put me in a place, a plan where I could move forward with my dental health. So yeah, just some other examples there.
I'll jump in with the question. Hey everyone. Hey Ben. So I get a lot of people, and I'm sure everybody on this call will relate, that as soon as they hear about network marketing, the first thing that really worries them is that they have to pester their friends and family, or that they don't know anyone that would want this. So I would love to hear from you, really sort of what is involved from us to build a network marketing business, and what kind of support do we get along the way? So what does it actually take, sort of in terms of work, to actually sit down and, move forward and build a network marketing business without feeling like we're pestering friends and family, and how do we do that with Isogenics?
Well, look, I mean, the industry is no different. Like, there's a formula for success, and it's the same for everything. It's the same for this. It requires the same traits. It requires the same drive, same grit, same determination, same work ethic, same coachability, and then next thing you know, years of consistency, you become an overnight success. And we see it in sport, we see it in business, we see it in everything. But the reality is 80% of people quit at everything that they do. And it's probably even larger than that. So if you are someone that doesn't quit, you're already in the 20%, right? So that's a fantastic leg up. My whole family's on it. So again, it's a little bit different. Obviously for me, but your family are not gonna understand you sometimes. Your spouses aren't gonna understand you sometimes. But again, we have to be conscious of going back to the reasons why you start. Now, look, you have to be the example for the people closest to you. You obviously, if you're feeling passionate about this, you give them the option. It doesn't mean that it needs to be all the time, but you give them the option, right? Now, the fear typically with that is loneliness. People think that they're going to become lonely. Their fear is loneliness. And then they think, well, if and my friends, then I become lonely. Like as if we don't have a continuation and turnover of people we constantly meet. Right? My views won't go into they're very different. I mean, my personality type and my temperament is very different. So from that standpoint, I can't give advice, because what I do and what works for me and has been proven to work for me, again, it is dependent upon my temperament, my experiences in life, and what my overall grand scheme of things is. Now, in my world, my family still, if they're not good to me and they're not useful to me, I'm not joined to the hip, and that can be scary for people. That can be. We're born into stuff, but we don't have to stay anywhere. And neither are friends. But the thing was, I didn't have a fear of being lonely because I didn't feel like my ability to connect was poor. Right? If we feel like we're good connectors with people, we're never going to feel fearful of being lonely. That's again, then it's another layer. So why do you think that there's a threat of you becoming lonely? Well, what's one of the traits or things you don't believe in yourself with? Maybe my ability to connect. Are you holding on to people because you feel like your ability to connect is down? Is that maybe an area of your life that you need to go to work on, right? What is the real stem of the fear? It's coming from that sort of place. Now, if you're coming from a place and an intention of really caring, you cannot dictate how people perceive your actions. It's not possible. You don't control how people see things. You cannot. If you have a good intention, that's all you can do. That's literally all you can do. I treat it the same with my public speaking. And this is why I can be very free in my thinking when I do my public speaking, is because my intention is to serve a room. It is not to be good or bad. It is to serve them whether or not they think I'm good or bad. The intention doesn't change based off their opinion. I cannot make them like me. I cannot make them take my opinions. I cannot make them do anything. That doesn't change my attention. And as long as my attention stays true, I'm happy. But I'm also not fearful of losing people. You will have that. You will be fearful of losing people. You will feel that in becoming a more fully expressed version of yourself in this or outside of this. Whether you go to try and do something else or try to excel or do different than what your environment is, think in front of where your environment is at, they're always going to be consciously thinking, well, why is this not good enough for you? Well, because maybe your purpose requires a little bit better. Maybe there's a little bit of potential that's being irked inside of you that requires more that they can't understand, because maybe that they've had a little bit more fulfillment. Maybe they require less. Maybe the purpose requires them to have less and do less. That is perfect. But if you have something that says to you that you are requiring more, and you shouldn't have to be all apologetic for that. And there is nothing worse than getting to the end of your life and wavering to that, right? My family have been able to be very supportive. I lucked out, but I was going to do this whether they were going to be or not. And I gave my friends opportunities. They didn't take them. I made new ones. I worked on my ability to connect. My friends got better. It'll be the same now. It'll be the same in 5 years. And I worked on myself. And because I worked on myself, the fear of these things became smaller, right? clinging to stuff and clinging to that, I mean, it's very hard to flourish. And so for me, talking to my family were already in. My sister basically pestered them, and then we all eventually got in. Like, she just pestered, but she was coming from a place of really want to support, and like eventually we did get on, but she eventually we eventually could see from which place she was coming from, but at some point it was our decision. Now, the biggest thing for me and what I do is I want this to be someone's decision. I don't want it to be because I've been good at coercing them. I want it because they decided. Now, I just create a space for them to be powered in. I lead my way. I show my life. I get my results. People will see that. And I lead how I want them to step into. And if they don't, cool. If they do, don't. But strangers will. Right? And that's been proven to be the case. 99% of my business has been built from people I met after I started Isagenix. Right? And they're typically I've only known them for 2 months at a time. My whole team have been built from that. Right? And again, it just comes back to the fact that you cannot dictate ever how people perceive things. You could be in a room of 500 different people. 500 people have a different perspective than what you desire. And to think that you can dictate that a lot of time is very unreasonable. It's it's unexpectable. And that's just going to stifle you from taking any action. That need to be able to feel like you're dictating, like that will stifle people, you know? But look, you just got to come from a place of really caring. My sister really felt like this was going to be good for me. And that was the place that she came from. And even if I didn't get this, that's all she could have possibly done. I eventually got it on my own accord, right? And I wanted to, because that's the kind of person I wanted to be for my sister as a family member. I wanted to be that for her. She didn't dictate. I wanted to be that for my sister. And I decided that, right? So again, it's so circumstantial. And I don't feel comfortable giving advice when it comes to other people's families, because it's very different, right? So, but again, as well, was there a second part to that question?
Yeah, just what is actually involved. So a lot of people obviously think that they talk their family, but there is more to it than that in terms of, really running with this and building a successful network marketing business. So what is required of you to step into a professional, successful business space? Sort of, I guess, going from like a product sharer to a successful business builder. What is required of you to step from that first space into the next one?
Yep. Well, talking to people, growing yourself, getting to events, finding people to talk to, helping your team, supporting your team. They're like the fundamentals of what we do, right? But you might be thinking when you get started, well, there's so much to learn. Yeah. I learned bricklaying for 3 years to do something I hated with shit pay and have no choice and have no security, but yet I did it. Did I know how to lay a brick before I started? No. Was I sure I could probably work it out eventually? Yeah. And I got paid shitty ass money to do it? Yeah. So I was like, well, I can probably do the exact same thing and apply the exact same thing to something that's going to actually give me freedom. I can actually enjoy it, right? So, and this is when people start off on a journey in any sort of business, is they want to try and think that they need to know everything to feel comfortable getting started. And I did a post yesterday about the fact that as humans, we have this attachment to knowledge to give us safety. And it's like we need to know the ins and outs of everything of the journey. And if we can't, it's too scary a prospect, right? But this is how life is, and this is the way that the world works, and this is how business works. Is imagine you're in the dark and you've got a flashlight, right? And you're showing that flashlight. There's only a certain length of way that flashlight can show, right? But you don't know what's past the flashlight. So people don't take a step because they're like, oh, what's past the dark? Even though if I take a step forward, the light will probably shine a light on something, and then I'll be more clearer on it and I'll work it out, right? And that's the same for literally, that's life. We can only see the next bit as long as we keep taking steps and just trust the fact that you're going to work it out. There's that much stuff to do with this industry I had no idea of how to do when I got started. I didn't even know what network marketing was. I didn't know it existed. Now I know I know a lot of the ins and outs of it, right? So a willingness to be committed to learning this, to doing basically, I mean, in isogenicsbusiness.com, there's a 90-day game plan. It's basically just a blueprint. If you learn that like the back of your hand, you've got this business. If you learn isogenicsbusiness.com like the back of your hand, you've got the blueprint. If I said to you, this opportunity is going to cost you $700,000, you'd probably go and do it because you'd have 700 on the deck as a threat. And now if you're not going to do this business, then that's typically a lot of what people's outlay are going to have to be. So then it's like knowing your options. If you're an employee or you're self-employed, you will never be the 5% of the population earning 95% of the wealth. We've been able to say that's just a hard truth. And that's one that I had to come to. So you need to be a business owner or an investor. Investing requires capital. A lot of people don't have capital. They don't have the knowledge, the ins and outs. Being a business owner comes with a lot of risk, a lot of upfront, a lot of capital. You're normally the last person to get paid. These are your options. Now we can go into a business that only requires you to use products and there's no risk. You're never going to be out of pocket. You're never going to be in the red ever in this business, right? And it has a possibility of you being able to create expendable income that can really make a big difference to your life. Yeah, you probably think that you need to learn it and need to give a lot of time to learning it. You know, a lot of people in our industry are earning more than doctors, and doctors have to go to learn how to do heart surgery for like 6 years. You know what I mean? And people are willing to go and learn. So it takes doing that. It takes applying it. It takes applying, and then you've got to go, well, I don't know so much. I don't need. Am I ever going to know it? You will, and you'll start to see that. But you won't be able to see a lot of it for a bit. And the more you take a step and you learn and you get to the next event, you get to an event, you listen to podcasts, you read stuff, you look at the content, you look at articles, you build your belief, you take action, like then it starts to, but the best thing is that you've got a lot of people that can understand it. Entrepreneurship. Network marketers are not entrepreneurs. We have systems, we follow structures. We're not creating too much, right? You can be a network marketer and do network marketing, but as a network marketer, we're not an entrepreneur. You'll see people talking like that. We're not. I think if you think you're entrepreneurial in what we do, that's probably going to work against you because you think you're going to have to create a lot rather than follow systems and structures. The best people are the ones that just follow systems and structures really, really well in our business. That is who's special. The people that are most simple are the most special. The people that are most special aren't the ones that are going and creating and like thinking that they have to do this and do that. They just master the simple things and master the basics. Commitment over time and staying in their lane, staying in line with their values, not skewing their own stuff with other people's stuff. And look, this is a process, but you get to be around people that completely understand. And in entrepreneurship, it's a very lonely road and people can't understand what you're going through. But every time I got a no, there was hundreds of thousands of other people that knew what that felt like. And that's much more easier than not having anyone understand what that feels like, right? So with building this business comes a lot of things, but there's the 6 main basic skills, and it's then going to work to be able to master those. It's really as simple as that. But people, again, just don't commit the time. And it doesn't even take a lot of time. It takes being efficient within the time that you've got. That's the difference. People think they need a lot of time. They don't. I've seen people do more in 15 minutes than people do with a whole day. And it's because they're just efficient with their time. They know what to do in the time. They know the priorities and they organize and then do that. People with all the time in the world, I've got all the time in the world, and they don't do anything, right? So it's not about time. And people use that as a massive one. But at the end of the day, it's just being able to learn how to be efficient with your time.
Ben, that's so good. And Brendan, I'm not sure if you had anything else to add to some of Brendan's points there as well with your own experience building teams and connecting.
Yeah. Thanks, Ryan. And that's awesome stuff there, Ben. And I can come in from a different viewpoint because I went through a lot of pain. Ben was not afraid of being lonely. I was very, very afraid of being lonely. My next door neighbor was like my friend 15 years later, and I thought that's how the world worked. Like, you know, the person that I played football with when I was 8 years old, he had to be my best mate for 50 years. You know, like that was my mindset. So I went through a lot of pain in that, but there was something that really helped me massively, absolutely massively, because I knew that I wanted to do this, but my friendship group didn't necessarily have the same values as me, as wanting freedom, flexibility, lifestyle choices, you know, light at the end of the tunnel. I like to think for myself. And so I was listening to someone one day and they said, if you were given Apple, would you choose your friendship group in the board of directors to keep Apple profitable? Or would you go out there and find people that could help you, that have the skill set to keep Apple profitable? And that solidified it for me, because I thought, great, I don't need to make some murky like some connection between my friendship group and growing this business. My friends didn't want to do it. I didn't have a strong network of free thinking, business minded people in my existing network. I had my friends from school, I had my footy mates, I had my mates that I met at the gym, I had my mates that were in a middle class working mentality. That's totally cool, all that stuff, but it was not the mindset of freedom and business. So what I realized is that they would fail miserably if they were my board of directors at Apple, if I was the CEO. So therefore I was like, I needed to treat my Isogenics business like I was the CEO of it, like I would be at Apple, and treat it with the respect that I would if it was Apple. And I needed to go out and find people that were in the same values, same mindset as me, and essentially provide them with information, listen with these things, provide them with information that was a solution to what I was hearing from them, and really invest in myself. But what I love about the industry is that someone like Ben, who's a bookworm, you know, like Ben is just like forever like reading and developing and growing himself. I have direct access to him through this vehicle of network marketing, where I've seen exponential growth in who Ben has become over the last 5 years, but now I have access and there's a friendship there as well. So therefore, I no longer have the fear of losing friendships, because I've developed strong, really good friendships with people that have the same values as me. My existing friends still play their role as great friends, but they don't need to join my business, you know, and because then it's a free-flowing, it's a great separation. I have great laughs with these existing friends. I have great value chats with people that I'm in business with. And that works really, really well. And what a stat that goes around, I'm not sure how accurate this is, but it's very accurate in my business center, is that 90% of income that will come through of a network marketing organization will be people that you're yet to meet before you start. So I was like, oh, cool. So I can actually be successful over time if I invest in myself without pestering my friends, with that question that you asked, Laura, and grow a successful business over time. Laura's a perfect example. Laura's someone that I introduced almost 4 years ago, but we weren't friends before I started Isogenics. We developed our friendship and our business relationship after I'd started Isogenics, directly because of Isogenics. And as a result, because we provide value to each other, we've become very, very close friends along the way. Just wanted to add that in.
Awesome. Thanks, Brandon. So, yeah, Ben, you threw out lots of good nuggets as well before as well. I'm so glad this is recorded, because I'm just going to rewatch, you know, what you've said there as well. So for anyone else, so I know Emma's asked a question, Laura's asked a question. There's a few new people on the call as well. So Grace, Bryony, Chloe, Allison as well. If you guys had any questions, either about the product, about the business model, compensation plan as well. Maybe some of you are wondering, okay, well, Ben, how do I get paid? How would I be able to get my products paid for as well? So say I started, I bought my products for the first month. How would I never have to pay for them ever again? Is
that a question?
Yes. Well, I guess I I was waiting for somebody else to jump in, but I think people are also interested in the business side of things.
Look, I think the best thing to do for people to fully understand, and what I do when I start people is that I have them watch the Jim Coover conversation plan over and over again, have a crack at drawing it out as far as I can, rewatch so they can go again, rewatch so they can go again. This is how I learned. So, I mean, I can describe it over like on the call right now, but again, I don't want you guys to expect to be able to have to do that, right? So I just want you to be able to obviously leverage the tools. You will start to understand this. It took me a while to understand the conversation plan. It really did. Like it took a while, but I just said that I was going to learn it and I was going to understand it all. So I did. And again, a lot of people, you'd be surprised, don't. They like a lot of people don't. And so you'll start to understand the pathways. The more you watch it over, you have a go at trying to draw it without looking and going stage by stage, and then having someone with you to be able to also do it, to show you how it works. And then, so that's basically how I learned it. It was with my sister, and my sister's my younger sister. So she was teaching me how to do it. I'd draw it out and she'd go, not quite right. So we'd watch the video again and I'd start again and have another go, and I'd have another go and I'd have another go. And then the pathways start to make sense as to how it was actually going to work, right? I started to get how the format was going to work. But it was consistently doing it up until the point where I didn't get it correct. And then I'd go again. I'd start all over again. Did that take time? Yes. But a lot of things I'm talking to you about is the reason why my mother's retired. I did a lot of things that people just didn't want to. It was just better to play games on their thing. It was better to do this. It was better to do that. Right. And again, I was in debt to my mum. I did, again, like when you've got like this is the other thing. When you find your clarity, you find your reasoning, a lot of things become obsolete as far as your worries are concerned. There's greater worries. I had fears. I just had bigger ones that pushed me forward. Like what you think your fears are that's stopping you, they're not true fears. Your true fears will actually accelerate you into a place where you didn't think possible. Your actual fears will send you to a place you didn't think you could possibly be in. When the fears you think are, they're not your real fears. They're not. You think they are, they're not. Right? When you get clarity, your fears will send you forward. You know? Do you see yourself doing this for the rest of your life? Get comfortable with that if you're not willing to make this call. If you don't go and speak at this event or do that, you have to get comfortable with knowing that you're going to have to do this job for the rest of your life. Which, right? So it was like, oh, they're not going to understand this or that, or the no, or this, or no. It paled in comparison. So my fear actually catapulted me. And that's what got me to learn the stuff. You don't learn this. Your mum has to work until she's 70. You don't learn this. You do that. That happens. You do that, right? And you're talking to someone who had a really bad compulsive disorder when they were younger. I used to say, if you don't do this, something bad is going to happen to your family. So what did I do? I did stuff that scared me, but it made me at ease at the fact that I was moving forward into it. Fear isn't the issue. It's how you're using it, right? It really is. And once you grasp that, like that might be one of the most powerful things that ever happens to you, really. Like, honestly, it's being able to choose them, because you're not meant to be void of them. You're just meant to choose them. And the ones you're meant to choose are the ones that propel you, not hinder you. And they're the ones that are also going to allow you to learn stuff, right? Oh, I'm not going to do that today. I'm not going to go to the gym. Well, right? And then it was just like, well, this is the other thing. This is what's the occurrence. This is what it is. And it's like they were all the second thing was way more scarier to me, and it forced me to learn. There was days I didn't want to go to events, just couldn't be bothered, tired. I had spent a whole day at work. It was a Tuesday night, didn't want to go drive 40 minutes, but it was like if you don't do stuff like this, keep being used to being tired all the time. Keep used to not being able to do stuff on a Tuesday because you're tired from a work that you hate. Get used to this. Can you get used to that? Can you subside to that? Are you going to be comfortable with that? Well, obviously no. So then that made me go to work to learn as well. Right? And it's just, but that was my clarity. And you have to find your own clarity as well. And you have to find your lane, and then you have to stay in your lane.
So awesome, Benny. If it's all right, I'll ask a question of you just so the others can hear as well. So we are all super passionate about the START vision. I know that those who are joining us on the call have either heard the START vision through Ryan, through Laura, through Sammy, through Emma, and we feel that, you know, this crew that we have, this tribe that we have coming together are really, really special. So my question for you is, are you able to share with us, because you were at the forefront of creating START, you were one of the key players in the early days, and you know, our START, for those of you who aren't aware, we have a Facebook group with the Start Your Life movement for people between the ages of 18 to 35, and we have nearly 70,000 global members in that Facebook group. And Benny was one of the original people who helped cast the vision of the Start Your Life movement. So Ben, would you be able to just share with us what it looked like in the early days, really casting that vision out to people who had never really heard of what you guys were sharing?
And what came up?
Yeah, I mean, well, we'll never really been seen before in the country. Network marketing had been typically an older person's game for a long time. Like talking to, you know, 60s, so like people that were, you know, been around for a while. It wasn't a young people's thing. So we expected not to be understood, but we understood this, so we expected not to be understood. It was not typical to what and when you bring a new thought process or a new way of things, you're going to come up against that, right? And but we were so enthusiastic. Our enthusiasm and our passion sort of outweighed that. It was unrelenting. It wasn't without people not understanding. Still isn't. But that wasn't important because there's people that need to hear it and they need to see it. They need to find it. And we were just red hot on it. We felt like we found something that was really, really powerful to stem the tide of a pattern that was set up from generations before that had worked for them, but just doesn't work anymore. And we just wanted different. We wanted what we think was better. We wanted to be at the forefront of change, and with any comes a lot of sense. You look at anyone that's done anything in the world that's created a movement or created anything. You know, first they're typically, you know, laughed at, then they're ridiculed, then they're celebrated, and that was exactly the same order as what we went through. And the next thing you know, we've got this massive group. Those things balanced us out, and I mean, there's a law of equilibrium. Anytime that you're down in the dumps, someone in your life picks you up. Every time you're too ahead of yourself, someone will bring you back down, and that's the sweet spot. And we need that. I'm very grateful for the people that brought me down, because then there was people that brought me back up, but gave them an opportunity to be able to do that and feel good. It's just the law of equilibrium, and I'm comfortable with that. I love that space, and I loved it within that. And I love what I learned about myself in that process. I loved what showed up, and allowed me to grow. And that's where that's where we found a lot of growth in our leadership, was coming up against not typically being understood a lot of time. But there was a lot of people that did understand that, and that's who we were looking for. Again, network marketing wasn't a big thing in the country. Nicogenics made it big. Now we're seeing companies want to launch into Australia because they've seen what we've done. They're companies that didn't want to before. People laughed at the Cougars for wanting to launch into Australia because they're like, the Australians don't get it, right? And it looked like that was going to be the case. For 4 years, there wasn't a lot of momentum, not a movement. Year 5, boom. Year 6, boom. Year 7, boom. Year 8, boom. It's just like, then the companies that were laughing going, oh, maybe they do get it. And they launched in. But they tried to do what we did, and they just couldn't. And it's like, it's almost like one shows up every month now. And they come in with their head of steam, and they don't maintain. They can't keep it. And we see it all the time. There's new buzz. These people are trying to do what we've done in ISA, and they think that it was just a timing thing. They think it was just an opportunity. They was thinking it was a conversation point. It's like, it's all the occurrences of everything that ISA Exchange is built up of. That's why we've been able to be at the top. That's why we stay at the top. That's why we'll continue to stay at the top. This is why we've made the forefront of the whole industry. This is why Eric Warren is coming down Australia, is because of us, because of this company, because of probably the younger movement. That's the reality. We were the fastest moving demographic in the whole company in an industry that was typically old. And a lot of that came from this group. In the whole company, the most amount of star ambassadors are from Perth, the most isolated city in the world, and the corner of the pocket of the world where no one even thinks to go to half the time. And they're all within our circle, most of them. And we did that. We blew it up. The people in the US were like, what are they doing? And we had no idea. We weren't paying attention to none of their stuff. We were doing our thing. We were having fun. We weren't thinking outside of our little zone. And next thing you know, the whole company stood up and watched what was going on and was asking how we did things, and we did that. And then, obviously we're seeing a lot of people come through and starting to duplicate exactly what we've done now. And that's fantastic. So I'm excited to be able to support that new era, and watch people be at the forefront like I have been able to for a very long time. Typically taking a bit more of a back step to sort of try and to have people come into that forefront and be able to lead and have a greater disbursement of such solid leadership within the company and within the age bracket. And so that's why I'm leaning at the back and pushing people into the spotlight these days. But look, we were just excited about what we had, and then it just grew.
Awesome. Thanks, Ben. Any other burning questions that people may have? I just checked in with a couple of you as well, so it seemed like most of your questions have been answered. Any other hang-ups? Anything that you're scared of asking that you just need to get out there as well?
I just get ignored. What do you do with those? Do you just keep sending stuff every now and then, or do you just leave it?
Yeah, look, if you go into the file section of the change room, I've written up some example scripts. You don't use an example exactly, but they're there to sort of help when that sort of stuff happens. There's a lot of it in there. Typically it is a lot of timing, right? People are like this, like that. And we can easily go, well, they're just so they're either down in the dumps or something, or they're overly excited about something. If we send them a message in the right span of time, then they're probably going to get back. It's like, I'll just say, hey, look, didn't hear back from you. I'm sure you're flat out and busy. I just want to make sure, you got the relevant information or what you spoke about is still the case. You can keep checking in over time. And again, you're coming from the right space. But again, I've got little examples of verbiage in the change room that help people with certain circumstances. If there's not a specific one in there that you feel like you need, then you just let me know. I can whip one up. And look, if you get ignored, a lot of us do. The thing is that the more action, the more messages, and the more calls you're doing, you can focus less on who's ignoring you and who's saying no. Because put it this way: if you send out 30 messages and you're in 6 conversations, you only have the time to spend on to focus on 6 conversations. You're too busy focusing on them to even think about the 14 others or the 24. You know what I mean? So the best way to avoid focusing on who's not getting back to you and who's and saying no is to actually take more action. I know it seems counterintuitive to the brain to go, well, doesn't that mean more? Yes, but you're spending more time in conversation with things that are positive that you don't have enough time to even think about who you'll forget most of the time. I can't remember the people that have ignored me. I couldn't tell you one right now. I couldn't even remember. I only remember the people that have said yes, and that's where my focus has gone. So it's just like, you know, and all I can do is just go and put out something that I think is great. And again, we can't dictate how people perceive things. We're not in control of that. But if intentions are true, that's all we can really do in this life, you know?
And for those of you who don't know what Ben was referring to, the Change Room is a Facebook group. So when Ben mentioned...
Yeah, I'm not hanging out in some weird change room like all day, like being weird. It's meant to be a play on words, like it's a room where you change. You're changing yourself. Well, I don't know. It's old. That's really been the name of it for years. Just stick with it, all right?
So I think a really good point you made, Ben, as well, is that, you know, network marketing is about systems and being able to duplicate that as well, right? It's not trying to overcomplicate things or reinvent the wheel, because people come into and say, oh, but you did it, but I can't, you know, and their hang up or their fear of getting started is, well, yeah, I need to be this type of personality, right? I need to be really extroverted, or I need to be posting 20 times a day, or I need to have a certificate, or I need to have done this and that as well to set me up. But there are so many stories now of people who have come from, you know, single mothers, people who have been in your position as a bricklayer, right? Domi with personal training, Brendan as working in the finance industry as well. So I think obviously there's enough success stories in network marketing as well, both extroverts, introverts as well. People who literally don't go, like some people can build their business without ever going to an event because they're talking to people online. You know, if you don't like people, you can still build a business. Like at least virtually. And at least there are stories of that, you know. But yeah, I guess
it's gonna be a little bit hard if you can't be around people. Might be a little bit hard. Look, I've had to learn to like people. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I didn't like people for a long time, and like there's still a lot of people I really don't like, and I just won't put myself around them. So, but there's people that you do really like, and that's who you work with. Right? But, and then obviously once you get to a massive point, like if you have a massive team, you have to learn different personality types. You need to be able to remain stoic. You need to be able to look to understand a little bit more better. But obviously that comes with time. But yeah, there's so many ways of different ways of doing it. I've built a lot of it online and a little bit less belly to belly. Belly to belly is probably the most effective, like for building relationship and rapport and people being able to stand longer. But I typically over online, it's worked okay for me. It's finding your groove, finding your way, finding your alignment within it, for sure. But getting to events is, we built into events. We built around events. I leveraged the people around me. I was just fantastic at leveraging. And people were scared to leverage. It's like my mum would still be in a job if we were afraid not to leverage. So do you think we're too bothered about hitting up people to get on a call for us? Nah. No, not really. And the people in art, and they're not fussed. They were very happy at the fact that we kept them busy. There's nothing worse for an upline to feel like you're not kept busy. I'm telling you right now, it is more frustrating when people don't ask you for stuff than when they feel like they're bothering you in this industry. It really is. But the events are there to be leveraged. The company is so good because of their events. we're number one because of a big reason is because of the events and our associate run events and the way that we do things. And I'd be lying if I didn't say a massive part of my is the fact that we leverage the events a lot. We were just really good at inviting people. The number one skill in network marketing, the highest paid skill, is the ability to invite and get people to an opportunity or on a call. That's the number one skill. That's the highest paying skill, the ability to invite. So we just got bums on seats, ears on phones, eyes on screens, and our ability to invite was really good. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think that that's so powerful, because then you realize that, oh, I don't have to do this alone, right? The tools are there, the systems are there as well, and you get to get around people as well who also want to see you succeed as well. You know, and if you get a question that you don't know the answer to, there's information and there's other people involved who can assist, who can help you out as well. And often the thing that holds people back from growing in their mindset or in their circle or their business as well is not being able to leverage the resources around them. That's their ability. And that's why we can leverage yourself to get on a call and get questions answered as well. And like you said, sometimes when we're starting out too, we don't have to know anything, but we can leverage the people who've been involved for a few years or who have the information to share that back. And I think that's so powerful as well, to alleviate the concern or pressure to say, oh my goodness, just another million things to do on top of my day. It comes back to what you're saying earlier about being efficient with your 15-minute window, saying a lot of people end up building this business outside of what they're already doing as well, until the side business, the side hustle, the part-time thing, the gig between 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. each night turns into what you can do full time. Yep.
Again, this can be done with not a lot of time. Just better leveraged time, and using of resources. Again, people are trying to use scissors to dig a hole when there's a shovel right there, but they're just refusing to use it. That's really what a lot of people are doing. And it's like, want to do this by yourself? Don't expect to succeed. It's just, and that's in business in general. Every business pretty much is the ability for them to be able to network and to use their resources well, inside of this and outside of this for a large part. So leverage is like, I wouldn't have the life I have if I was too afraid to do that. I have the knowledge I have now because of my ability to leverage.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ben. Brendan, I'll hand it back over to yourself as well, just to perhaps wrap up for us. I know it's probably went over time as well. There's so much to take away, even for myself as well, listening in too. But yeah, if there were any sort of last comments as well.